the discussion that we're having of shame and how there's this, it's the very presence of the person, and then it's the hispashtus of the person. It's also not so easy to understand shame.
That's fine. It's not so easy to understand, but it's more readily, we have a better grasp of it.
It's closer to us, in other words.
Than others. Shame, we immediately, we have in the motion of the shame, we have a very concrete sense of the various stages. We have the name as it applies to the person, the Etzem HaShem. And as we discussed, that there is the name element in the person even before he was given a name. The reason he is given a name is because it befits him to have a name. Remember that? That's the first thing. There's the etzem. This is the etzem of the name. Then there is how he is given a name. Then there is the union that he's being called by the name, which is also a concrete expose of the union. Then there is how this name is applied to property that he owns, which is also, again, a very tangible phenomenon that we can relate to and understand the difference between how the name applies to his property and how the name applies to himself. Right?
Like I said, you were present for those shiurim. I missed them.
Ah, okay. If you're not present to the shiurim, then yes, of course, then you would not know it. Okay, but this is the principle. So, you should try and go back, maybe get together with somebody and go back to those shiurim. Oh, okay. So we are on the third line of Kuf Ayin Gimel. You there? All right. The principle that we are currently learning about is that in the Oyer Ein Sof Shelifnei HaTzimtzum, there too there is the Etzem Oyer and there is the Hispashtus Oyer. And the Hispashtus Oyer Hispashtus means how the Oyer can affect, have a functional element. That's means Hispashtus, functional element. Hispashtus Oyer, this is what is known as Aliyah Zorotzin Aloilams. Aliyah Zorotzin, when there is a will for the will, just the essential will that there should be worlds. And we explained, worlds and Oyer Ein Sof are entirely, two very, very different concepts. Oyer Ein Sof is Ein Sof. World, by definition, is something which has to have a finite quality to it. In this Oyer, there is the Aliyah Zorotzin. There is the Rotzin that there should be world. So he said that this Aliyah Zorotzin, this is bedugmas. This approximates, this is similar in the motion of the name of the shame of being clear as Hashem. This is like being called by the name. Calling the name means that the name is recognized outside of the person. Aliyah Zorotzen al oilamus. Oilamus means oilamus have to be outside of the initial oir. As we explained that oilamus by definition means something that has two states, present and not present. And the present is drawn from a source. That is the Aliyah Zorotzen al oilamus, which is called hispashtus oir, not the etzem. And then he says,
Rabbi Paltiel?
Yes.
Just before you go on with that, I don't have always the presence of mind to ask in the morning about these things. So maybe Yehuda was actually pushing you on this point today or yesterday. This Aliyah Sorotzim we're talking about is his Spashtus Oyer in the Oyer Ein Seif Lifnei Atzimtzum. Right?
Yeah.
There's no such thing yet as Oilamos.
Right.
At all.
Right.
And there's no such thing really as an outside.
Right.
So how is it that this is like calling the name of a person, which is by a zulus, which is outside the person? How is this similar, Kriyas Hashem, to this level of Hispashtus Oyer? It's like he's pretending to be outside of himself and call his name?
No.
Because we said that the Etzem Hashem is like Atzmus decides to become aware of itself. Right?
Right.
This is like having a shame.
Right.
That even though you don't need a shame, but when you have a shame, so you identify yourself in a way. But Kriyas Hashem, you don't call yourself by name. Somebody else calls you by name. And here there isn't anybody else.
The thought, the Rotz in Atzmus, that there be worlds, or even the thought about the concept of worlds, is the principle of being known outside of himself.
As if there were a world that was recognizing him. Kaviyachol.
Well, not as if there were a world, but this is the projection of world. Aliyah Zorotzen, that he wanted that there would be such that his name should extend to that point.
And by him, that's as good as there actually being a world where he's called by name.
No.
No.
It's not. It must mean it's just as good. This is just this is the possibility of it.
Possibility. But the possibility for us, that's similar to, at a mushal level, the actual other person calling you by name. Is that what Kriyas Hashem means in the mushal? That somebody else uses your name?
Yes, but we also explained that it's not the use of the name per se. It is how that usage relates to you. The fact that you can be called by name, that already speaks about an external aspect of yourself.
So it's this external aspect of self that is pointed at in the mashal of Kriyas Hashem.
That's right. The fact of somebody calling you by name, that is insignificant.
Right. It's the fact that there is this aspect of you that can be called by name.
Right. And we pointed out also that being called by name per se, instead of saying, hey, you, that's the emphasis. Why is he calling by name? Because name is you.
Mm-hmm. So it's a chitzonius, but it's a chitzonius of the panemius.
That's right. It's a chitzonius that exists because there's a panemius.
Uh-huh. Thank you for these clarifications.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to even more subtle areas. I really hope I got you with me. Okay, at the end of the third line on page Kuf Ayin Gimel. So again, we are discussing the union of Hispashtus Hashem, Hispashtus Ha'oir. Lifnei HaTzimtzum. Oir Ein Sof Shelifnei HaTzimtzum. V'chein gam, and similarly also, ma shelamaylo mibchinas aliyah zorotz, even that which is above the union aliyah zorotzin, there is also an element of his pashtus oir. Aliyah zorotzin is a very definitive element of his pashtus oir. Clearly, you're talking about a projection of worlds. Clearly, that is his pashtus, and that is being called by name. But even above Bechinas Aliyah Zorotzin, even there is a union of his pashtus oir. What is that talking about? Again, please, it is very subtle, and I'd like we can't misunderstand these things, because then we have a complete, wrong perception. Harayodua, but it is known, shezehu gamkein, that too, even the oyer shelemaylam aliyah zorotzein, is also bivchinas hiserus kloli al kol ponim. It is in the state of the bechina of hiserus kloli al kol ponim. Al kol ponim means essentially at the minimum. In other words, even though there isn't a definitive element in this oil, and this is hiserus, there isn't the union of aliyah zorotzin, Allah oilamis, which we explained. Aliyah zorotzin oilamis means oilamis, the definition of oilamis, something that is being made that does not have an essential presence. That which is l'mal aliyah zorotzin, there is also an aspect of his pashtus. What is that? B'chinas hiserus kloli. Hiserus kloli means a very general, non-defined, non-definitive hiserus. Hiserus means, the word hiserus means arousal. What is the principle of arousal? Hiserus. There isn't an element of hiserus on the inside of the etzem. Again, I'll go back to emotional. So, please, if you don't understand it, I really can't go away until we understand it correctly. We said the other day that the sun is etzem behidi. is an essence that's here. He said also that in the sun there is no, the sun is not light. Definition of light is light, as we know it. Light makes bright darkness. That's light. But in the sun there is no darkness. The light in the sun is not light in the true in the simple sense of the word as we know it. If there was no such thing as darkness, would there be light? There's no light. Now, it's the function of light, the functional light. There's no functional light. No such thing as darkness. In the sun, there is no functional light.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not light.
And in Etzem, there's no Hisorus.
That's right. In Etzem, there is no function element of light. However, if you examine this Etzem as it is unto itself, you would see that there are, conceptually, you will be able to think of it in two forms. There is the essential in that there is light and there is no darkness at all. Then there is also the union that this light is different than darkness. It's not darkness. Which means that this light, if there were darkness, it could illuminate darkness. This union that light is different than darkness, even though there isn't a union of darkness, and it's not relating to darkness. But the identity that this is not darkness is already a Hiserus, clothing.
What's the first element there? The first aspect you mentioned?
The first aspect is that it is exclusive of light, there is no darkness. And therefore it is not light. Therefore it does not light at all because it doesn't have the functionality of light.
And the second piece was?
The second piece was in identifying itself as light, which means not darkness. In other words, an etzem does not compare itself to that which is not.
It's not by
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
And then there is a Yisoirus Kloli where he begins to think, but I'm not that. I'm not darkness.
That's Hisorus.
That's already Yisoirus Kloli.
Definition by contrast.
Definition by contrast. This is already identifying its functional possibility. Functional possibility is called the Hiserus Klolis.
This is higher than Aliyas Arotzin.
This is higher than Aliyas Arotzin.
Why is this higher than Aliyas
Because
Arotzin?
he's not thinking about making a world. This is part of its own identity.
We just said it's in contrast to. How's it so much part of its own?
It's within its own identity. There are these two. There is the Ayin that he identifies that he is not dark.
Why is it called Hisorus Klali? Hisorus on what?
They said they call it Hiserus, that it is Hiserus means it is not him exclusively as he is totally into himself. He begins to identify what he is, not just he is, but what he is.
I'm just trying to understand it in terms of the word itself. Arousal. What does arousal mean here?
Arousal means that it is that there is okay, I'll explain to you what arousal is. In our world, if you're asleep, somebody touches you, you'll wake up. Why will you wake up? Even if he just touches you, it doesn't shake you and nothing. Just touches you and you'll wake up. Because even though you're into yourself and you're asleep, but you are in a state where you become aware of something but yourself.
Go from being to knowing.
That's right.
One time. Sorry.
You become aware of something but yourself. This is called an arousal.
Beside yourself?
Yeah, something other than yourself. Now, in physical speaking, arousal is exactly that. There is something outside that touches you. On a higher level, internal to yourself. Let's say, as a matter of fact, even in our experience, in our moshel, please let's not misunderstand. We're saying that when you get touched, you wake up. But he didn't wake you, didn't shake you. Why did you wake up? The answer is that you were sensitive to an external touch even before you were touched. You weren't like into yourself, but you were not into yourself 100%. Even then, even while you were asleep, you had a hyserus chlolis in relating to that which is not you. Even though nobody touched you. This is why you responded to the touch instantly, immediately.
So this is a degree of responsiveness.
This is a degree of responsiveness.
But our nimshal is no.
So this So now this degree of responsiveness. Please understand. A person's asleep, and that's why I'm looking at this motion. There's no comparison, please, between this and what we are talking about. Is really the reality itself is totally disinterested in anything else. But you said there is because it's oir, therefore there's Yisodus chloris alcohol. Because oil, by definition, has an inherent functional possibility. Like you said, the sun is not light, but it has an inherent functional possibility. This light can illuminate darkness.
So even though we said the sun, but inside the sun is no light,
there's no
light.
It has
inherent the so-called functionality. And
it has an inherent functionality. Right?
And that's the Hisarus element?
That's a Hisarus chloris. That yes. There is in Hisarus, we once spoke about it in Sabachlo. In Hisarus are different levels. There is what's called possibility and called probability. The actual Hisarus is at the level of probability, when he is already, so to speak, half awake. Possibility is not involved at all in external awareness, but he has an inherent internal awareness. By being here, he has an external awareness. This is part and parcel of what he is.
Rabbi Paltiel?
One second. I don't have. So when you say Hiserus Chlolis al kol ponim, means that inherent in oir, because oir inherently has the capability of illuminating. So even though there is not that awareness at all, there isn't that intent at all, but inherently he has that capability. Therefore, inherently there is that, so to speak, awareness that there is the possibility of illuminating outside, illuminating darkness. even though he's not interested in illuminating darkness. And like I said, in the emotional, the person asleep. Sleep means that he's totally involved in himself. He's totally unaware of what's going on around him. This is the state of sleep. And yet, you touch him, he wakes up. Which means he was present even before you touched him. And he was totally insensitive to anything but himself. By touching him, you couldn't wake him up. He wouldn't wake up. He wouldn't hear.
Is it possible to ask a question?
Yes.
So going in the other direction, meaning that's Atzimus. We're talking here about the Ein Sof, but this Ein Sof is, we say, is Kamoi Ha'etzem. We made a major point of that, right? So
yeah.
But
that, wait a second. That is talking about Etzem Ha'ir. You're talking now about the Spashtus Ha'ir.
Okay, that's what. So in other words, in Etzem Ha'ir, there's also, because Atzimus is not arousable.
Right.
So Etzem Ha'ir is also not arousable.
Right. We're coming to Etzem Ha'ir in a minute.
But in this is already in Hispashtus Ha'ir. I'm saying because the way you described the arousable part was the Oyer already, because it's Oyer, it has the possibility of functionality. Did you say it that way?
Yes, because it's Oyer.
It has the possibility of being a functional.
It has inherently an element of functionality.
But that's not that's in Hispashtus Oyer.
That's in Hispashtus Oyer.
Not in Etzem Oyer, it's Kamei Etzem. There's no.
In Etzem Oyer, we're first coming to the Etzem Oyer.
Okay.
Okay. My watch misled me. I don't know what happened here. David, you down, Myron? David? Touch him.
Application.
No, just touch him.
He should wake up already.
You see that?
See? Practical use. That's it. That's real. It works.
Rabbi Paltiel, you go to great lengths to get a real live mushroom.
I put David to sleep.
Just for the sake that he should be touched.
Just for the sake he should be touched. Should be a marshal. David, you realize that you were a marshal now for accidents? That's a special excuse.
I don't feel like one.
What he feels like is a father of a little baby.
Yeah. You don't matter where, David. You did not matter. We need a minute.
How many do we need?
We're closing the book, Rabbi Paltiel. Is that correct?
Okay.
Oh boy, we're closing the book.
Good to know.
Good to know, sage ich.
David Babinate.